Rain poured softly against the window as Anna sat, alone in the silence of her living room. The luxurious house around her was everything she had once dreamed of: marble floors, designer furniture, expensive artwork hanging on every wall. Yet none of it could silence the emptiness inside her. She slowly opened an old wooden box she had hidden in the back of her closet for years. Inside were photographs she hadn't dared to look at in a long time: a small church, a tiny apartment, a young man covered in grease, laughing as he held a wooden spoon like a microphone while dancing in a cramped kitchen. Daniel, her first husband, the man she had walked away from. A single tear landed on the photograph. Then another. She gently traced his smiling face with her fingertips. "I was so blind," she whispered. "I thought money could replace love. I thought success could replace peace. I thought I was choosing a better future, but I was walking away from the greatest blessing God had ever given me." She closed her eyes. "If I could live my life again, I would choose you every single time. But some mistakes can never be undone," or so she believed, because 5 years earlier, she had made a decision that changed both of their lives forever. This is the story of how two broken hearts discovered that God's grace is always greater than our greatest failures. She left him because he was poor. 5 years later, she couldn't believe who he had become: a love built on hope. For years, Anna believed she had made the right choice. She walked away from the man who loved her with all his heart, convinced that love alone could never build the future she dreamed about. She chose comfort over commitment, luxury over loyalty, security over sacrifice. But life has a way of revealing what truly matters. 5 years later, fate would bring her face to face with the man she had left behind. Only this time, he was no longer the man she remembered, and neither was she. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon when Daniel first saw Anna. She was standing outside a small country church, gently helping an elderly woman down the front steps while holding a worn Bible close to her chest. Daniel couldn't explain why he couldn't stop looking at her. It wasn't simply because she was beautiful. There was something peaceful about her, something genuine. When she smiled, people smiled back. When she listened, people felt understood. For a brief moment, the noise of the world disappeared. He watched her walk away without saying a single word. Yet somehow, he knew he wanted to see her again. The following Sunday, he did. After the service, he gathered enough courage to introduce himself. "Hi, I'm Daniel." She smiled warmly. "I'm Anna." Their first conversation lasted only a few minutes. The second lasted nearly an hour. Soon, talking after church became the favorite part of every Sunday. They discovered they shared the same dreams: a simple white house with a front porch, a family gathered around the dinner table every Sunday, children running through the backyard, growing old together. Neither of them had much money. Daniel worked as a mechanic's assistant. His hands were always stained with grease, and his clothes carried the smell of engine oil. Anna worked at a small clothing store downtown. The paycheck was modest, but she never complained. They laughed more than they worried. Money was scarce. Hope wasn't. 2 years later, Daniel asked Anna to marry him. He couldn't afford a diamond ring. Instead, he bought the most beautiful ring he could pay for with months of savings. He took her to the old oak tree behind the church where they had shared their very first dreams. With trembling hands, he looked into her eyes. "I know I can't promise you a life of luxury, but I promise you'll never spend a single day doubting how much I love you. I'll work every day to become the husband you deserve. Will you marry me?" Anna's eyes filled with tears. She nodded before she could even speak. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Their wedding was simple. Small church, close family, homemade food, fresh flowers picked by friends. No expensive decorations, no fancy music. Yet everyone who attended said exactly the same thing. I've never seen two people so deeply in love." Their first apartment was tiny. The refrigerator made strange noises every night. The kitchen was barely big enough for two people. Sometimes dinner was nothing more than rice, beans, and eggs. But somehow, those became their happiest nights. Daniel would grab Anna's hands while dinner was cooking, without music, without embarrassment. He would dance with her in the middle of that tiny kitchen. She laughed every single time. "You know we don't even have music," she'd tease. Daniel would smile. "I don't need music, I already have my favorite song." "What song?" "Your laughter." She would roll her eyes, then hug him tightly. Every night before going to bed, they prayed together. Daniel always ended with the same words: "Lord, help me become the husband she deserves. Teach me to love her the way you love us." Anna would squeeze his hand and smile. Back then, she truly believed nothing could ever separate them. She believed love would always be enough. She had no idea life was about to test that belief in ways neither of them could imagine, and the first cracks were already beginning to appear. Chapter 2. When comparison enters the heart, the months passed quietly. Daniel worked harder than ever. He often left home before sunrise and returned long after the sun had gone down. His body was exhausted, but every sacrifice had a purpose. He wanted to give Anna the life he believed she deserved. Every Friday, no matter how tired he was, he brought her something home. Sometimes it was a single rose from a flower stand. Sometimes it was her favorite chocolate. Once he surprised her with a small notebook. When she opened it, every page contained handwritten notes, little memories, little dreams, places they wanted to visit one day, names they hoped to give their future children. Anna smiled as she read each page, but deep inside, something had begun to change. The unpaid bills kept piling up. Their old car broke down more often than it worked. The landlord announced another increase in rent. Vacation plans became impossible. Dinner dates disappeared. Conversations slowly turned into calculations. One evening, while scrolling through social media, Anna noticed that nearly everyone seemed to be living the life she had once imagined. Luxury vacations, beautiful houses, expensive restaurants, designer handbags, perfect smiles, perfect marriages, perfect lives. She knew those pictures showed only a small part of reality, but little by little, comparison began whispering dangerous lies into her heart. What if love isn't enough? What if you're wasting your life? What if you deserve more? At first, she ignored those thoughts. Then, she started believing them. Daniel noticed she had become quieter. She smiled less. She no longer laughed during their little dances in the kitchen. She stopped talking about the future. Instead, she spent hours staring silently out the apartment window. One evening, Daniel sat beside her. "Is everything okay?" She forced a smile. "I'm just tired." He gently took her hand. "I know life hasn't been easy lately, but I promise you, we'll get through this together." She nodded, but something inside her remained distant. A few weeks later, one of her co-workers invited her to a company dinner. "You should come," her friend insisted. "It'll be good to get out of the house." Anna almost declined. At the last minute, she changed her mind. The restaurant was unlike anything she had ever experienced. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Soft piano music filled the room. The guests wore elegant suits and sparkling dresses. She suddenly felt out of place. That was when she met Richard. He was confident, well-dressed, successful. Everything about him suggested wealth. He greeted everyone with effortless charm. When he was introduced to Anna, he smiled politely. "So, you're the famous Anna I've heard so much about." She laughed nervously. "I hope only good things, only the best." Throughout dinner, Richard spoke about business trips to Europe, luxury resorts, investment opportunities, new cars, vacation homes by the ocean. To him, it was simply everyday life. To Anna, It sounded like another world for the first time. She wondered what life might have been like if she had made different choices. That thought frightened her. When she arrived home later that evening, Daniel was waiting. The apartment smelled like homemade soup. He had cooked dinner himself. "I wasn't sure when you'd be home," he said with a smile, "so I kept it warm." She looked around. The old refrigerator hummed loudly. The kitchen light flickered. The walls needed fresh paint. Daniel proudly placed the bowls on the table. "I know it's simple, but I tried a new recipe." She looked at him, then looked around the apartment once again. Only hours earlier, she had been surrounded by elegance. Now, everything felt painfully small. She sat down without saying much. Daniel noticed. "Was the dinner nice?" "It was." "What was it like?" She hesitated. "Different." "Different how?" She forced another smile. "You wouldn't understand." The words hit Daniel harder than she realized. For the first time since they had been married, he felt as though an invisible wall had appeared between them. The following morning, Richard sent her a message. "It was great meeting you." She stared at the screen. She didn't answer. A few hours later, another message arrived. "I know a wonderful cafe downtown, if you'd ever like to talk." She ignored it again. But this time, she didn't delete it. Days turned into weeks. The messages became more frequent. Friendly conversations slowly became personal ones. Compliments replaced casual greetings. Richard admired her intelligence. He praised her beauty. He listened carefully whenever she talked about her frustrations. Meanwhile, Daniel continued working longer hours, believing that more effort would somehow fix what he couldn't yet see. He had no idea. The greatest danger to their marriage wasn't poverty, it was comparison, and comparison had already begun stealing Anna's gratitude, one quiet whisper at a time. Chapter 3. The day everything fell apart. The distance between them didn't happen overnight. It grew quietly, like a crack in a wall that nobody notices until the entire foundation begins to shift. Anna became quieter. Their nightly prayers slowly disappeared. Dinner conversations turned into silence. The little dances in the kitchen stopped. Even her smile seemed different. Daniel noticed every change, but he convinced himself it was only stress. He worked even harder. "If I can earn a little more," he thought, "everything will be okay again." He picked up extra shifts. He slept less. He worried more. One Friday evening, after receiving a small bonus at work, Daniel stopped by a flower shop. He bought Anna's favorite white lilies, not because it was a special occasion, simply because he missed seeing her smile. On the way home, he imagined her face lighting up. He imagined them eating dinner together, maybe talking, maybe laughing again, maybe praying together before bed. For the first time in weeks, he felt hopeful. As he unlocked the apartment door, something felt wrong. The living room was unusually quiet. No music, no television, no footsteps, no voice calling his name. "Anna?" Silence. He walked through every room. The closet was half empty. Several drawers had been cleared. Her favorite coat was gone. So were the framed photos she had always kept beside the bed. His heart began to race. Then he noticed a white envelope resting on the kitchen table. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. "Daniel, I never wanted to hurt you. You are a good man, one of the kindest people I've ever known. But kindness isn't enough anymore. I've spent years waiting for our life to change, and I'm tired of waiting. I want more than survival. I want stability. I want opportunities. I want the life I've always dreamed about. Please, don't try to find me. This isn't your fault, but I can't stay. I truly hope one day you'll understand. Goodbye." Anna Daniel read the letter once, then again, then a third time. Each sentence felt heavier than the one before. The flowers slipped from his hand and fell onto the kitchen floor. For a long time, He simply stood there, unable to move, unable to breathe, unable to understand how the woman who once promised forever could disappear without even saying goodbye. That night, he sat alone on the living room floor. He looked around the apartment. Every corner reminded him of her: the tiny kitchen where they had danced, the couch where they watched old movies, the window where they planned their future together. Everything remained exactly the same. Except she was gone. Hours passed. Finally, he knelt beside the couch. For the first time in years, he couldn't find the words to pray. His voice broke. "God, I don't understand. I gave her everything I had. I loved her with all my heart. Why wasn't it enough?" There was no answer, only silence. The following Sunday, Daniel almost didn't go to church. He couldn't imagine walking through those doors alone. He couldn't bear the questions, the sympathetic looks, the whispers. But something deep inside him told him to go anyway. He quietly slipped into the last row just before the service began. He kept his head down the entire time. When the final prayer ended, people slowly began leaving. Daniel waited until almost everyone had gone. As he stood to leave, an elderly man approached him. His name was Pastor Samuel. He had known Daniel since he was a teenager. Without saying much, the pastor placed a gentle hand on Daniel's shoulder. "I've been praying for you." Daniel forced a weak smile. "I don't know what to do anymore." Pastor Samuel looked at him with kind eyes. Sometimes God allows the storm to remove what we've mistakenly built our lives upon. Daniel remained silent. The pastor continued. "You believed your future depended on Anna, but your future has always been in God's hands. The pain you're feeling today is real. I won't tell you to ignore it. I won't tell you everything happens for a reason. But I will tell you this: if you let Him, God can build something inside you that no one will ever be able to take away." Those words stayed with Daniel long after he left the church. For the first time since Anna had walked away, a tiny spark of hope appeared. Not hope that she would come back, but hope that maybe his life wasn't over after all. Meanwhile, across the city, Anna was beginning a completely different life. Richard welcomed her into a world she had only imagined. Luxury apartments, fine restaurants, weekend trips, expensive gifts, beautiful photographs. Everything looked perfect, at least from the outside. Neither of them knew it yet, but both of their lives were about to change in ways they never expected. Chapter 4: The Wilderness That Changed Everything. The first few months were the hardest. Every morning, Daniel would wake up expecting to hear Anna's footsteps in the kitchen. For a brief second, everything felt normal. Then reality would return: the empty side of the bed, the silent apartment, the photographs that were no longer on the walls. Some nights he couldn't sleep. Other nights he wished he wouldn't wake up. Not because he wanted to die, but because he no longer knew how to live without the woman he had built his future around. Still, every Sunday he returned to church. Not because he felt strong, but because he knew he wasn't. One afternoon, Pastor Samuel invited him to help distribute food to struggling families. Daniel almost refused. "I don't think I'm ready." The pastor smiled gently. Sometimes healing begins when we stop looking only at our own pain. That Saturday changed something inside him. He met a widowed mother raising 3 children alone. He met an elderly man who had lost everything in a house fire. He met people who smiled despite having almost nothing. As he handed out groceries, Daniel realized something. Pain was everywhere, but so was hope. For the first time in months, he went home feeling lighter, not because his problems had disappeared, but because his heart had begun to change. Little by little, Daniel rebuilt his life. He enrolled in evening classes to learn business management. He read books instead of spending his nights staring at old photographs. He started exercising before work. Every morning he prayed the same prayer: Lord, don't make me successful before you make me faithful. Don't make me wealthy before you make me wise. And don't let this pain become bitterness. Years passed. His discipline began producing results. His supervisor noticed his dedication. He was promoted. Then another opportunity appeared. A close friend invited him to become a partner in a small automotive repair business. The business grew faster than anyone expected. Within a few years, they opened a second location, then a third. Money finally arrived, but something surprising had happened. It no longer controlled his heart. Daniel lived comfortably, yet he remained the same man who once danced in a tiny kitchen. He still volunteered every Saturday. He still visited elderly members of the church. He still remembered every employee's birthday. People admired his success, but those who truly knew him admired something else: his peace. Meanwhile, Anna's life was becoming everything she had never expected. At first, living with Richard felt like a dream. Luxury vacations, beautiful homes, elegant dinners, designer clothes. She smiled in photographs that attracted thousands of likes online. Everyone believed she was living the perfect life. No one saw what happened after the cameras were turned off. Richard slowly became controlling. Every decision had to be approved by him. Every expense was questioned. Every conversation became an argument if she disagreed with him. The expensive gifts slowly turned into ways of controlling her. The beautiful house no longer felt like a home. One evening, after another painful argument, Anna sat alone in the enormous living room. The silence felt unbearable. She picked up her phone and began scrolling through old pictures. Then she found a photograph she hadn't seen in years. It was taken inside their tiny apartment. Daniel stood behind her in the kitchen, holding a wooden spoon like a microphone while making her laugh. She remembered that night. Dinner had burned. The refrigerator had stopped working. They had laughed anyway. Tears slowly filled her eyes. Not because she missed being poor. She missed being loved. For the first time, she understood the difference. Luxury had given her comfort, but it had never given her peace. That night, she opened the old Bible she had packed away years before. Dust covered its cover. Inside, she found a small handwritten note. It was Daniel's handwriting. It simply read, "No matter what tomorrow brings, let's promise we'll never stop choosing each other." The tears she had been holding back finally fell. She closed the Bible and whispered through her tears, "God, I've made so many mistakes. I traded something real for something temporary. I don't even know how to pray anymore. But if you're still listening, please don't give up on me." It was the first sincere prayer she had prayed in years. She didn't know it. But at that very moment, God had already begun working on a story far greater than either of them could imagine. Neither Daniel nor Anna knew it yet, but their paths were slowly leading back toward each other. Chapter 5: The Unexpected Reunion. 5 years had passed. The seasons had come and gone. The pain that once defined Daniel's life had become a testimony instead of a prison. One Saturday morning, his church organized a community outreach event. Volunteers prepared hot meals, distributed clothing, prayed with families, and offered support to anyone in need. Daniel arrived early, as he always did. He wasn't there because he had to be. He genuinely loved serving people. As he greeted families and carried boxes of food, he noticed a familiar voice behind him. Daniel. Everything around him seemed to disappear. Slowly, he turned around. There she was, Anna. For a brief moment, neither of them spoke. 5 years of memories filled the silence between them. She looked different. She was still beautiful. But the confidence that once came from appearances had been replaced by humility. Her eyes carried both sorrow and wisdom. Daniel looked different too. He stood taller. His face reflected peace instead of pain. His smile was calm. There was strength in him that hadn't existed before. Anna lowered her eyes. "I almost left when I saw you." Daniel answered gently, "Why didn't you?" She took a deep breath. Because I've spent too many years running away from my mistakes. I don't want to run anymore. For a moment, neither of them knew what to say. Finally, Daniel pointed toward a wooden bench beneath the old oak tree beside the church. The very same tree where he had proposed years earlier. Would you like to sit? She nodded. The wind moved gently through the leaves. Children laughed in the distance. Life continued around them, as if heaven itself had created a quiet space just for this conversation. Anna stared at the ground. I've imagined this moment 1,000 times. I rehearsed speeches. I planned explanations. But now that you're here, I realize none of them matter. Daniel remained silent. She continued. I was wrong. I confused wealth with happiness. I confused comfort with peace. I believed that money could replace the kind of love you gave me. It couldn't. She wiped away a tear. I hurt the best man I've ever known. I've asked God to forgive me. But I don't know if I deserve your forgiveness. Daniel looked at the old tree for a long moment before speaking. You know what hurt the most? She slowly looked up. It wasn't that you left. It was believing that I wasn't enough. For months, I questioned my value. I wondered if I had failed as a husband. I blamed myself for everything. His voice remained calm. But one day, I realized something. My identity was never supposed to come from being your husband. It was always supposed to come from being God's son. Anna began crying quietly. I destroyed everything. Daniel gently shook his head. No, our marriage broke, but God didn't. She covered her face with both hands. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for every tear, for every lonely night, for every promise I broke. I would give anything to undo what I did. Daniel waited before answering. Finally, he spoke the words she never expected to hear. Anna, I forgave you a long time ago. She stared at him in disbelief. You, what? I forgave you. Not because what happened was small, and not because it stopped hurting overnight. I forgave you because I refused to spend the rest of my life chained to bitterness. I couldn't move forward while carrying hatred, so I gave that pain to God. Fresh tears rolled down Anna's face. I don't deserve that. No, none of us deserve grace. That's why it's called grace. Neither of them spoke for several minutes. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was healing. Finally, Anna stood. I don't expect anything from you. I'm not asking for another chance. I only wanted you to know the truth. I wanted you to hear, I'm sorry, from my own lips. She offered a small smile. Thank you for listening. She turned and slowly began walking away. Daniel watched her leave. 5 years earlier, he had watched her walk away with a broken heart. This time, his heart wasn't broken, but something inside him whispered that this wasn't the end of their story. It was only the beginning of something neither of them could yet understand. Chapter 6. Choosing to trust. Again, after that conversation, beneath the old oak tree, neither Daniel nor Anna tried to force what came next. There were no late-night phone calls, no emotional messages, no promises, only time. And this time became their greatest ally. Weeks passed before they spoke again. It happened after another Saturday outreach at church. Anna had quietly started volunteering every weekend, not because Daniel was there, but because serving others reminded her of the woman she used to be before ambition slowly hardened her heart. The first few conversations were simple. How have you been? How's work? How's Pastor Samuel? Nothing more. The past remained untouched. They laughed occasionally. Sometimes they walked to the parking lot together after church. Sometimes they simply smiled from a distance. Neither of them wanted to rush what God was patiently rebuilding. Daniel admired the changes he saw. Anna no longer sought attention. She never spoke about wealth. She never mentioned Richard. Instead, she listened, she served, she prayed, she encouraged hurting women who had gone through broken relationships. For the first time, her faith wasn't something she talked about, it was something she lived. Months passed. One rainy afternoon, after finishing another outreach event, Daniel found Anna sitting alone inside the church. She was crying quietly. He walked over without saying a word and sat beside her. "What happened?" She smiled through her tears. "Nothing bad?" He looked confused. She laughed softly. "I was just thanking God." "For what?" "For not giving me everything I wanted." Daniel remained silent. She continued, "If he had answered every prayer I prayed years ago, I would have spent the rest of my life believing money could save me. But instead, he allowed me to lose everything that distracted me from him." Daniel felt tears forming in his own eyes. "I've learned something too." "What?" "I used to pray for God to bring you back." She slowly looked at him. "But eventually, my prayer changed. I asked him to make me the kind of man who would honor him, whether I stayed alone or whether I loved someone again." Anna lowered her eyes. "I never stopped asking God to heal the damage I caused." Daniel smiled gently. "He has." She looked surprised. "He healed me first." Then, after a long pause, he added, "And maybe he's been healing both of us all along." Neither of them noticed Pastor Samuel watching from the back of the church. The elderly pastor smiled quietly. He whispered to himself, "God never wastes broken hearts." Winter became spring. Spring became summer. Nearly a year had passed since their unexpected reunion. One evening, after Bible study, Daniel invited Anna for coffee. It wasn't a romantic date, at least not officially. They talked for hours. They laughed about old memories. They apologized for forgotten misunderstandings. For the first time since their marriage had ended, they felt completely at peace with one another. As they walked back to their cars, Anna stopped. "I need to ask you something." Daniel nodded. "Do you think two people can truly begin again?" He looked at the stars before answering. "I don't think we can go back." She looked disappointed. He smiled. "And I'm grateful." She frowned slightly. "The people we were back then didn't know how to protect what God had given them. We were immature. We loved each other, but we still had so much to learn." He stepped a little closer. "I don't want the marriage we had before. I want something better." Anna's eyes filled with tears. "So do I." For the first time in many years, Daniel gently reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. Neither of them spoke. They simply stood there beneath the night sky, two hearts no longer held together by emotion alone, but by faith, by humility, and by the quiet work God had been doing all along. Both of them knew. A new beginning was no longer impossible. It was finally within reach. Chapter 7. Love redeemed. Autumn arrived with cool mornings and golden leaves dancing across the churchyard. Nearly 18 months had passed since Daniel and Anna's unexpected reunion. Their relationship had not been rebuilt through grand romantic gestures. It had been rebuilt through ordinary days, honest conversations, shared prayers, acts of kindness. Trust wasn't restored overnight, it was restored one faithful day at a time. Daniel had learned not to fear the future. Anna had learned never to take love for granted. One Saturday afternoon, after another community outreach event, Daniel asked Anna if she would take a walk with him. She smiled. "I'd love to." Without saying where they were going, Daniel led her through the familiar path behind the church. When they reached the old oak tree, Anna stopped walking. She recognized it immediately. The same tree, the same place where years earlier, a young mechanic with empty pockets and a heart full of dreams had asked her to marry him. She looked around in silence. "This place," Daniel smiled. "I know." For a few moments, neither of them spoke. The breeze gently moved. Through the branches above them, birds sang in the distance. Everything felt peaceful. Daniel reached into his jacket pocket. Anna's heart began to race. He wasn't holding an expensive diamond ring. Instead, he held a simple wooden box, handcrafted, beautiful in its simplicity. "I made this myself," he said with a shy smile. She looked at him, already crying. "When you left 5 years ago, I thought my life was over. I thought God had abandoned me. But now I understand. He wasn't abandoning me. He was rebuilding me." He took another step closer, and while he was rebuilding me, he was rebuilding you too. Tears streamed down Anna's face. Daniel opened the wooden box. Inside was a beautiful ring. Simple, elegant, nothing extravagant. Everything meaningful. He looked into her eyes. "Anna, I'm not asking the woman who left me years ago to marry me. I'm asking the woman standing before me today. The woman who has been transformed by God's grace. The woman whose heart now seeks him above everything else. I don't want to relive our old story. I want to write a brand new one. A story built on faith before feelings, on forgiveness before pride, on commitment before comfort." He slowly knelt on one knee. "Will you marry me?" Again, Anna covered her mouth with both hands as she cried. For several seconds, she couldn't speak. Finally, she whispered, "Yes." Then she laughed through her tears. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger. She immediately wrapped her arms around him. They held each other for a long time. Neither of them wanted to let go. It wasn't simply an embrace. It was the embrace of two people who had walked through heartbreak, discovered grace, and found each other again. Months later, they stood once more inside the same little church where they had exchanged vows years before. But this wedding felt completely different. There were no expensive decorations, no luxurious reception, only family, friends. The church that had prayed for them. Pastor Samuel smiled as he looked at them. "I've performed many weddings over the years," he said, "but today I'm witnessing something even more beautiful. This isn't just a marriage, it's a testimony." When Daniel and Anna exchanged their vows, every word carried a deeper meaning. Daniel looked into her eyes. "I promise to choose you every day, not because life will always be easy, but because love is a decision before it is a feeling." Anna smiled through tears. "And I promise that nothing in this world, no amount of money, no success, no comfort, will ever become more valuable to me than the gift God gave me when he brought you back into my life." When they were pronounced husband and wife once again, the church erupted in applause. But the most beautiful moment came later that evening. Long after the celebration had ended, Daniel and Anna returned to their home. Not a mansion, not a luxury estate, just a warm, peaceful house filled with laughter. As they stood together on the front porch watching the sunset, Anna rested her head on Daniel's shoulder. She smiled softly. "You know, I used to think God answered prayers by giving us everything we wanted." Daniel gently kissed her forehead. "And now?" She looked toward the sky. "Now I know. Sometimes his greatest blessing is not giving us what we ask for until he has transformed us into the people we're meant to become." Daniel intertwined his fingers with hers. "I'd go through every painful day again if it meant ending up right here with you." She smiled. "So would I." Together, they bowed their heads, not because life was finally perfect, but because they had discovered something even greater, a love no longer built on emotions alone, a love strengthened by forgiveness, protected by humility, guided by faith, and centered on God. As the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, Daniel whispered one last sentence. "Our first marriage was built on dreams. Our second one was built on grace. And this time, nothing would ever separate them again." The end. Do you think Daniel made the right decision by giving Anna a second chance? What would you have done? Let us know in the comments below.